Well, welcome to this week's podcast. I'm not telling you what the name is because I haven't decided, but I will by the time you hear or see this. I am with the amazing psychic Angela Thomas. She's an incredibly interesting person. Not only does she have an MFA in writing, she's also a research psychic. And so we're just going to be going back and forth. I think for people who follow me, you'll find this incredibly interesting because the forensic psychic work that she does is so valuable. And so I want to make sure to give her some room. We're going to hang out about 15 or 20 minutes to go ahead, grab a coffee, grab your snack. If you're listening to this, you're in for a real treat. Hi, Angela. How are you?
Well, hello, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. Now, we'll start with the MFA in writing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, the MFA in writing, of course, is an advanced terminal degree, and there's only two types of terminal degrees, an MFA or a PhD. And so I'm a former adjunct professor for a private university, and I taught written communications for business. Now, that may sound like a normal, oh, she's teaching me how to write a business letter, but it really went beyond that, PR ads, marketing ads, how to persuade your audience, how to write a negative post or a negative letter. And so it has all types of applications. So I taught there, but my focus for getting the MFA in writing wasn't to go and run and teach for the university, but rather to publish my own works. So that's why I pursued that degree.
And what works have you published inspired by your MFA dream?
Well, I've been a contributing writer for Brad Steiger. 6 of my short stories have been in 6 of his books. And I would have continued on, but Brad passed away several years ago. But he was considered one of the top paranormal experts in the country. And so there were a lot of collaborative writers that was in Brad's books. I've had prose in literary journals and things of that nature. I'm working on a couple of books right now, which I'm taking my sweet, easy time on. One is on psychic development, and the other one is called This Psychic Life. And so, knock on wood, I'll be able to at least get This Psychic Life out and about soon.
That sounds really exciting. Do you still do work with clients regarding their business writing, or are you full on just focusing on the psychic part of it?
Well, I do get occasional requests to do business writing, which I will if I can, or depending on the project, because now I can afford to be picky about what I take on. But I love business writing and sales copy and things of that nature. But that, my main focus now is on my psychic services business.
And before we move on to that tantalizing topic, because we could probably speak hours around that topic and so many different interesting things that you do in that field. Is there any piece of advice that you can give people who, especially because you're talking about persuasion, and that's really the name of the game. I always tell people that everything you want is in the gift of someone else. And so there's different ways to connect with people based on their personality gift clusters. And it's really the art of the sale. We're always selling and we're always persuading, whether we're persuading our kids to eat the vegetables before they have their dessert, or our, significant other to take us somewhere to go to that, extra fancy vacation. We're always in the mindset of selling. And I think especially for people who are in a spiritual niche, even a client of mine, that's one thing people have a hard time doing, is that really persuading people using the language of communication, which is a gift, to connect with them in a profound way. Is there anything that you can give to people who are starting out in their spiritual business?
Yes, I would say that, any type of communication, whether it's verbal or whether it's written, you should have what's called the you attitude. And the you attitude is where, when you're writing, for example, you address the person with you and your, right? Because people don't want to be typed at, they don't want to be text at, they don't want to read about the business owner and how it impacts their business or how they can benefit your business, but rather how you and your company or your services or products may benefit that individual. So the you or your attitude is highly important. And I have to go back to primary school when all of us were learning how to write. So that who, what, when, where, why, and how should be answered, even if it's in a short copy that you have, or your profile, or whatever the case may be that you need to write on. I come across so many people that lack the basic who, what, when, where, why, and how. But, and also whatever is your most important thing to tell your audience, your reading audience or your listening audience, should be written up front. So your first, let's say, 2 paragraphs should contain the bulk of your information. Your first paragraph should be who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? And then the second most important thing that you wish to say needs to be in the second paragraph. And if you have longer, let's say, sales copy, or you need to really define or explain something to your audience, then your third paragraph, that first sentence, that second sentence of each paragraph thereafter needs to have whatever the topic sentence is, or whatever is your most important thing to say. That way, and let me just say, most people today, they're simply not readers. If there's long copy, they're going to go, oh, I don't have time, or I don't have the patience. So what they will do is they'll read the first 2 paragraphs and the first 2 sentences of every paragraph thereafter. Because why? The first sentence, like your third paragraph with the first 2 sentences, tells that person everything they need to know about that area, and then they move on. So that would be the advice that I would give to anyone that wishes to write and really send their message to their audience or their target audiences.
That's so good. It's like, keep it simple.
Exactly. Keep it simple. And the thing is that you may be impressed. I say you, I'm talking about anybody, may be impressed of like, oh, I have an advanced, vocabulary, but you don't want to write that way. The biggest secret is to keep it at an 8th grade level for the masses. So anyway.
Yes, I remember reading a few years ago.
Okay.
We're still recording. All right.
Right.
A little techno glitch, but it's okay. For those of you who are in audio, you might have heard a little pause. It's okay. This is real life. So for those of you who are wanting to have a podcast, I'm like, I just want everything to be perfect. It's not going to be. You just go. I've already told you I've had tech gremlins all day. And whether you're new or I've been in places where they've had literally thousands of people, and then it's like everything just goes kablooey. It just happens. You just have to have a good attitude, knowing, okay, we'll just wait a couple seconds.
Right.
And it'll fix itself. But what I was going to say was, I remember a few years ago reading that, to write at a 6th grade level, because that's how people can read quickly and understand. Right. And then recently I heard it's been lowered to 3rd grade. And I said, oh my gosh, have we become dumber as a people?
Yeah, you don't want to really write above an 8th grade level of education. So I happen to know of a world famous scientist who is considered one of the greatest minds of the 21st century. And his writings are those $2 million words. And so when I've looked at some of the work, I said, you gotta bring it down, to where people can understand. Otherwise, you're going to lose them. They're not going to read. And he kept on saying, but I have, Angela. I have. I've dummied it down. And I said, it's not about dummying it down. It's about somebody having the flow. So no more than an 8th grade education. So if it's between 6 and 8, that's great. If it's too simplistic, let's say a 3rd grade level education, then you may lose your 6th to 8th grade, where people are comfortable still in reading, right? They'll go, wow, that's a little too simple, or are they going to give me more? But, don't show off your vocabulary, because people are not interested and they will close or click off of your website very quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's really great advice, because it reminds us that the people are even if they don't have ADHD or ADD, they're still wanting to consume a lot of information or data quickly.
Sure.
And so that was really great structure that you gave us. Keep it simple. Basically have your hook in the first sentence and 2 for every paragraph, to continue to hook them in if it's going to be long copy. And just having those simple things in place, and also to speak simply. I'm trying to remember who said it's like, if you can't explain it to a child or someone who's younger, you don't know your material well enough.
Exactly. That's true. And besides, it's if you wanted someone to speak to you, you don't want them to try to speak above you or at you. You want somebody that's having a nice conversation, explaining what you do, and everyone's comfortable on both sides. So just put that into your writing.
So good. Now let's get into some of the juicy stuff.
Okay.
of your research psychic. So how did you get into psychic forensics?
Actually, it was by accident. I had been doing psychic work, and a friend of mine, a new friend, actually, she was a new friend, and said, would you consider tracking a missing person? And at that time, she belonged to a group called Child Finders. And so groups of psychics would meet and go through a process. And then that information was then forwarded on to police detectives. So that's how and then it was really more about children, right? It was for minors, anyone below the age of 21. And so I kept on, and then I started taking on individual cases and of children, and then I got into the adult side of it. And now occasionally I will do some cold cases, because I have the ability to go backwards, use retrocognition. And so it's really handy when you're doing any sort of psychic forensics or criminal casework. So I never work one-on-one with the family or the friends of the missing. It's only with, a law enforcement liaison. So I'll pass on that information to that liaison, and he or she can then forward it on to any sort of detective or person that's, handling the case.
Oh, wow. So are you actively still working in that field?
Yes, but I don't take on as many cases as I used to. And I gotta say, I've never charged to do that service. but
That's
it is
awesome.
the most lengthy process. So when I go through, I do remote viewing, which was used by the military for over 20 years. They had their secret spy program called Stargate. And so I will use their method to track, and remote viewing is like you can perceive anything, any person, any event from the arm of your chair. So I never have to go out on foot or go out on site. I can just sit here and do the remote viewing. And then I go through a matrix to hone down the details. So, but to answer your question, I do still do that, but I don't take on as many because it does take so much time. So, you know, I do quite a few scans. That's going through the whole process at least 3 times. And so I
Wow.
won't do them back to back. I'll do a scan and I'll get up and do something else and maybe come back to it an hour later or several hours later and do another one. So, and then I write a written report, and it's almost like a police report. It's very specific. And so again, it takes up so much time that, you know, I don't have that time to donate like I used to. And it wasn't that I really had time beforehand. It was just that I was exhausting myself because I was so concerned with so many missing people, you know, whether it was stranger abductions or somebody ran off, or maybe there was a medical emergency or a medical endangerment, or a non-family abduction. I mean, you know, the list goes on and on, or even abandoned. You know, like children are often abandoned,
Yeah.
like left in the middle of nowhere, and they're on their own. So, so anyway, I used to work and go, I can't, you know, I can't not do this case, right? I felt really terrible. So I was exhausting myself, and it was taking away from my own income and my own business until I started to, you know, level that out a little bit better. So, yeah.
Do you find that the police and the officials are open to people with your kind of gifting in order to assist them to find missing persons? How is that?
Some are, but a lot of them are not.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say still the majority are not. And it's not so much that, I mean, you know, there are people that simply go, those kind of abilities are impossible, right? And then the other ones, you have some that go, oh, I believe in it, but I'm not going to let my buddy know, my work associates know that I believe in that, because they're going to make fun of me or they're going to roll their eyes. And then you have people that go, you know what? We can use all the help with that we can get. So anytime that somebody sends in even a tip, right? If they don't, if they are so like some psychic named Angela Thomas just sent us this report, right? If they have that attitude, that's on them. I've done my job. But secondly, anybody, I could have just called that information in, and that's a tip, and they would have to pursue that tip. And so if they get 100 phone calls from people, that's 100 tips they have to investigate. So I used to establish every single liaison with every single case. And I have, not always, but I have said, give me the name of the law enforcement agency, the person, the contact information, and I'll email my notes, I'll email my sketchings, I'll email my reports. And if they have any questions, then they can call me, right? So either way, it just depends on the case and, you know, how quickly, you know, because I get requests like, so-and-so has been missing for a year. And even though, you know, every person deserves to be recovered, alive or dead, you know, I often think, wow, 1 year has passed. And if that person was kidnapped, where are they now? You know, like they're long gone from the scene of being kidnapped. Or if they suspect murder, or you already know, you know, you already know if they've murdered or not.
Yeah.
The body after 1 year is not going to be intact. You know, there won't be any flesh remaining. So decomposition, in other words.
Right. So what is it that you would love people to know? I was looking at your website, and psychic Angela Thomas.com. For
Right.
those of you, and I'll have
PsychicAngelaThomas.com.
Thomas, yeah, .com. And I'll have all the information for those who are watching through video, or if you're hearing it through the podcast, all the information will be in description, how you can reach out to her. But there's so many interesting things that you offer to assist people to develop their skill sets. For those even who are just interested, you have workshops that are coming up in October as well. Can you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Sure. Well, the one that you mentioned in October is called a photo psychometry workshop. And what that is, you know how you may hold an item or touch an item, and you get information from it, right? So, but because, thank goodness, we don't always have to touch items or photographs to get information. We can merely see it. So I want you to think about if your best guy friend or your best girlfriend sends you a picture online or texts you a picture and says, hey, what do you think of this place? Or, hey, what do you think about this person? Now, they're not asking you, really, do you think he or she is wonderful or good looking? No. They're asking, what feel do you get? Right? Or somebody's looking for a house and they text their friend and go, what do you think of this? They're not asking you like, wow, yeah, that's cute, because you're going to say so anyway, right? But they're asking, what feel do you get for it? So now I have developed a photo psychometry workshop online. It's a 2-hour class, and you get a lot of information in 2 hours, and you practice right in the classroom. So that's the photo psychometry one. I've got a remote viewing, doing what I do, remote viewing criminal casework, 5-week workshop. It meets every Saturday for 2 hours for 5 weeks. And there's 3 weeks that are spent in remote viewing and 2 weeks spent in tracking missing persons. And so that's coming up actually this Saturday, September the 3rd. And then on September the 15th, I've got a 6-week masterclass that begins, Psychic Development 1. And that covers a full array of subjects. It's 2 hours in each subject. And so again, you learn techniques, you do exercises in class, or you go out in a breakout room and work with a partner. So it's highly interactive and it's really fun. People love it.
Yeah, I was reading some of the reviews on your website, and I was like, oh, that sounds so interesting. That sounds so fun.
Well, yeah, even
So,
advanced people can take Psychic Development 1, and it's actually a prerequisite. And because people might go, oh, I know about energy, or I know about colors, or I know about, I mean, I'm not teaching chakras, but I have a 2-hour class. I'll show you how to use sound for your chakras and your third eye, right? So anyway, no one knows my approaches, no one knows my methods, no one knows my techniques until they take the class. So whether you're an advanced practitioner, like, oh, I've been doing psychic work for 20 years, or, hey, I'm just now starting out my journey, both the Psychic Development 1 is for you. And it helps with business, not just, you know, you're doing this for family or friends. you can use your psychic abilities and even your clairvoyant abilities to enhance your business. So, there's a lot of applications for it.
Yes, there is. I teach some of that myself. And
I love
the
that.
thing is, yes, so I've done chakra work and clear peoples. They used to call me the chakra queen. So
Oh, great, great.
Clearing you right up. And I've just been shown more and more, even of things of the third eye, and how what we're shown is not incorrect, it's just incomplete. And so having all these pieces is so helpful, because you have people like you who've been in this field, who've developed certain methods that work really well, that you can actually pivot into helping people find missing persons, if that's in your heart to do, if you're burdened by that. Or like you even mentioned on your website, if you can use those abilities when you're a real estate person, because you're created to be a matchmaker. So you're matchmaking two people's dreams of selling a house and moving into their current dream house. So that's an amazing, noble profession. You also mentioned you can use this, if you're a dating coach. Again, you're a matchmaker of being able to, the one with the photographs, and saying, okay, I'm going to use my abilities, my natural ones and my woo-woo ones, marry them together, look at these photographs, and then have even higher success rate, because you're using all of your abilities, not just the ones that you might naturally coming kind of like out of the woo-woo closet.
Right. I have to say that I get a lot of requests and a lot of people texting me photographs of a potential person that they're going to date, like, okay, we're going to go out for the first time or whatever. And what do you think of this? I need a reading, right? I need a reading.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, with being on both sides of, working with the energy of the photograph, working with the energy of people, and then on the criminal case side, my heart always sinks every time somebody says, I'm doing online dating. And so I'm sure there's great people out there, but there's also the bad ones. So to me, it's very important, if people are going to continue to date online, which they will, then I think it's important for them to learn how to know, like, no, that one's a psycho, or no, that one's a great person, so.
It's like, if the tools are there for you to use,
exactly.
use them.
That's right. And then anybody can go, hey, I know how to read photographs now, so I'm a photo psychometrist. And then now the people that know how to do it can do it for others, right? So, and charge if they want to. So
Right. And like you said, you can start with your friends and families until you can become more comfortable. You have some success stories. You feel really good in your gift. And then, you can come out of your woo-woo closet whenever you're ready to do so.
Right.
Well, it was a pleasure talking
to you. Speaking with you.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here. And I'm looking forward to reading your books when they come out. And until next time, may all your days be like days of heaven on the earth.
Oh, God bless you. Bye-bye.